Here everyone, my name is Wang. I'm a PhD researcher at the Victoria University of the Valentines. My presentation today is called Demolition but Not Rebuilt. It's look at urban village redevelopment in Zhengzhou in central China between the 2005 and 2025. Here how the next 15 minutes are going to do. I will start with the research problems, give you some background on the case, walk through where this sits in the lecture, then describe the data I built, share the three findings, and end with what I think it all means. So the 13th point, when people write about the urban village redevelopment in China, they're almost always writing about the Shenzhen or Guangzhou. Those are cases in the literature is building on. And the thing is the inland Chinese cities work quite differently. Land value are lower, local physical position are weaker, developer market are thinner. And one outcome of the redevelopment become much more calm in those settings. A point that guide demolitions, but they never get rebuilt. That's what this paper is about. I take the Zhengzhou, the capital of the Henan, 12 million people, central China, and I asked two questions. First, how did urban village redevelopment in the city actually play out, plots by plots over the last 20 years? Second, which plots are stored, meaning they were demolitions but never rebuilt? When did they get demolitions, and what does the pattern tell us about how the redevelopment models worked? And a bit of the context on the case. Zhengzhou is the provincial capital of the Henan, central China. 12.6 million people as of the 2020 census. Over the past 2 decades, it's been one of the fastest urban inland cities in the countries. My dataset covered the 5 districts in the mini urban area. 321 urban village plots in totally, tracked from 2005 to 2025. And before I get the data, let me lay out the policy fiscal context. A few key dates. As you say, in the 2003, Henan launched its Rise of the Central China strategy with Zhengzhou as the centerpiece. From 2009 to 2015, the cities go through an intensive demolitions phase. In 2015, the nation's Shanghai redevelopment project pushed things even harder with the cheap fundings from the central bank. Then, the 2016, the central government starts pulling back the deliberations campaigns tightens critics from the local government financial vehicles. Zhengzhou's government revenue still keeps growing for the while. It peaks at 125.9 billion RMB in the 2020. Then in the 2022, Zhengzhou ends up the center of the national mortgage payment bailout crisis. And by the 2023 and 2024, city revenue actually declines 2 years in a row. So the city goes through a fully cycle in the period, rapid growth peak, and then constructions. So here is the literature review part, there are three traditions I draw. First, work on the Chinese land finance. The basic argument is that since the 1990, Chinese local governments depend on land, selling rights to the land, converting rural land to urban lands as their main sources of the revenues. So every plot you clear to reissue is basically a fiscal event for the government. Second, work on the stage entrepreneurialism. The idea is the Chinese local government behaved like gross coalitions. The mobilized land and planning powers are partners with the developers. All the capture revenue and produce those redevelopment is not really housing policy, it's way of the governors. And third, the speculative urbanization literature, they're focused on what is gross the mobile produce at the peak. Over investment goes the city special excuse. So when you put those three together, you will see the three theoretical traditions. And two things this literature doesn't really get to though. The first is geological things. As I mentioned, the work is built mostly on the coastal magnet cities. Inland cities, they will financial conditional are different, just haven't had the same attentions. The second is questions of the resolutions. When people do study Chinese urban villages, they tend to work at the city levels. Totally demolitions counts, remote sensing fixtures. What don't see much of the plot level work, which the specific plot starts, how long they will be in the waiting where they clustered, and that's exactly the gap I trying to do fields. And the inland cities looked at the plot at the time cost 20 years. And so that's what I built, a plot level the data set of every urban village plot in Zhengzhou. Zhengzhou's meaning urban area, until the 2025, 325 plots, 5 districts, and 30.30 square kilometers of the land in the total. For each plot, I code 4 things. The year is got demolitions, where with a 0 if it haven't been. The year reconstructions finished, again a 0 if it haven't yet. Plot areas in the square kilometers, plus building the density at 5 years snapshot, and the administrative codes. So I know which discrete and sub-discrete each point sit in. Once you have the port data, you can classify each port as the intact, demolition and rebuilt, or demolition and vacancy. And then from the years, you can build 3 annual indicators for the whole cities. First, the demolition entry, how much area went to the under demolition that years. Second, completions, how much area finished being rebuilt that years. And third, this is one that matters most, the vacancy stocked, the running totally of the area that been in demolition but haven't been rebuilt yet. That's the indicators that tracks the gap between the two halves of the circles. Alright, here my findings. Three of them. First, the circle skew the pictures. When you actually plot the data out, and you can see it on the chapter here, the demolition activity peak really sharply in the 2050. 3.03 square kilometers cleaned in just that 1 year. That's the highest annual numbers everywhere in the dataset. As you can see, after 2015, the demolition dropped off the deepest. By the late of the 2010s, avenue demolition is small fractions of the what is was the at the peak. Completion is statistics across the period, but it always lagging behind the demolition. So if you do the calculative math, the vacant and peaked at 6.64 square kilometers in the 2015, same year as the demolition peaks. After that, since the change, demolition is slow, completion keeps coming in, and vacant stock start shrinking by the 2025. It's down to the 1.47 square kilometers. So this is a city scale shape. A steep rise peaked in the 2015 and gradual draw down. Okay, so vacant stock has become down, but here is the thing: it has gone to the zero. There is a specific group of the plots that just stay here, and that's the second findings as of the 2025. 58 plots in my database are still classified as demolition but not rebuilt. That's a 20.6% of all the demolition plots, so roughly 1 in 5. But by area is the 1.47 square kilometers, about the 11.5% of totally demolition areas. So the really number though is the duration. On the averages, those the 58 plots have been sitting empty for the 11.6 years since they were demolished. The longest one, 20 years. Can you believe that? So to give you the comparison, the plot that did get rebuilt took on averages 4.3 years from demolition to complete. So we are not talking about plots that are running late. We are talking about something different. There aren't transition weakness, their long-term residues. The third finding here is where get interesting. In the storing was just about recent slowdown. You'd expect the storing point to must come from the recent demolition years, right? But the plots that got cleared just before the market codes never managed to start the rebuilding. That is intuitive the stories, but the data shows the opposite. When you look at when the 58 stored point were actually demolition, the single biggest come from at the peaks. Big court also come from the 2016 and 2017. Plot demolition after 2017 when activity was already cooling down actually contribute to fear story to case, not more. Storing with the peak period entry, not with the most peak slowed down. The plot that went into the systems when it was running flat out are was most likely to have the never come out to the other side, and two opposite come out of this first what I call the peak court efforts. The biggest groups of the stored plots got demolition in the 2015. The same year, demolition activities was at its highest state, that consistent with a system where the institution or financial capitals to actually follow through on the demolition got overwhelming during the peak. The thought odds was just too high to observe. Second, the hurricanes. Think about this. Plots that finished took the 4.3 years on the averages. A stored plot have already been into waiting almost 3 times that length. But the 11.6 years on average, they are not at the tail end of the normal distributions. There are separate kind of the outcome. If I had put the planet, there are at least 2 kind of the redevelopment outcome in Zhengzhou. There are plots that complete in about 4 years, and there are plots that don't complete, often for 10, 15, 20 years, and where the plots end up in the first outline or the second seem to have a lot of do with when they entered the systems. So what does this mean for the 3 traditionals I start with? Land Finance does a great job explaining why Zhengzhou had such the aggressive demolition between 2009 and 2015. The fiscal luggage was working at the full tilt. What Land Financial is less developed, and what happens to the plots that got cleared at the peak when the physical conditions later change. That's what this paper documents at the plot level 2 decades later. For the stage entrepreneurialism, those scholarship argue that changing the stage policies shaped the redevelopment outcome. What I think they started to the plot level research of the opposition, you can actually identify the residues of the entrepreneurial moments, but the policy document not in city skilled aggressive, but as a specific piece of the land that have been sitting empty for over the decade, you can map them. And for the urbanism, the literature is really good at to bomb the face. Ghost cities over the investment scattered land that nobody use. What I want to suggest is that the same circle urbanism in inland city at the peaks salt ports also produce something else. It's produce and rebuild residues, special accuse, and the special residues aren't opposites. So for 4 things I should afford about limitation. First, my dataset covered the Zhengzhou main urban area, not wider regions. so I can't speak to the pure urban dynamics from this data. Second, I classification plot starts as 2025. Some plot I'm calling stored today may still get rebuilt later, and so treat the numbers as a current snapshot, not a final one. And the third, the village level physical data isn't public available in China. So when I talk about the physical context, that at the city level, the link between the physical event and the individual plot outcome in not directly measured. Let me warm up to the three findings from the plot level database sets. Demolition activities peaked sharply in the 2015 in that single years and dropped steeply afterwards. The cognitive vector stock also peaked the same years at 6.64 square kilometers. So although have the 58 plot 20.6% of the demolition plots, and they still stored of the 2025. And the three things, the single biggest quarter of the stocked plot come to for the 2015. The year demolition was at peaked. Okay, here is three quick things about contributes. This paper of the plot level database in the inland cities, and in the methodologies, the coding scheme in the reproducible, so it can be applied other inland cities when data become available, and in the conceptual ways, I'm reframing the stored redevelopment as a peak called reduce rather than traditional the delays. That's a take one. Hello, thank you so much. And if you have some questions or comments or interesting of my topics, be free to email me. Thank you. Bye bye.